My gosh, what the heck is going on over here in the US? I mean, we're just trying to do a show here. Come on. I got to get my music going. My whole vibe is being messed up here. My goodness. Let's get this thing going. Feel like I'm a DJ. If my college buddies were here, they'd be like DJ T-Money. All right, so we're going international again today. You know, we've had a lot of interesting news coming out for HR tech. We've got let's see if we can do this little DJ. Let's do the producer here. Let's check this out. We've got some fun things here for you, Gabe. Watch this. You know, we're getting fancy.
Wow. I'm starting to feel professional. Wow.
We're getting very, very fancy. And it's going to get even crazier when we bring in our good friend Arne. And
where's my band?
Wow, look at you.
Come on now. Listen, I'm not look, the producer's not going to leave you out of this. We could not possibly do that to you guys. So we've got all these different setups. Let's see. Look at this one. I wasn't trying to be the center of attention with this one. Let's see. All right, what about that? We have that one. We have all kinds of choices here today on JobTopia. But the most important thing, gentlemen, good to see you again, guys. How are you?
Great to see you, Tony. Great to be here again. I feel this is home already for me.
Well, listen, you're like Mr. Content Creator out there. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna have to step up my game. You had an absolutely, I told you offline, I said you had an absolutely beautiful video that you put together. Do you have a content team that helps you with this, or are you kind of on your own?
It's a one-man show, but I think that's going to be a motive that we're going to be able to talk about right now and throughout the whole podcast, about how just one person within an organization can be so multi-talented because of the tech that's out there. And that's what I'm using. And that's what make it seems like we might have a big team, but it's really just me.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of what happened. So see, you know, I'm here doing it as well. And see, I've got to get, remove Arne. See, I've got his thing here. I've got to remove that. I got to put in my little ticker, got our ticker going across the bottom. But that's the thing though. I think as we get more and more kind of tech involved, I do think we're going to be able to do more, do more with less. Now, Arne, I know you and I have kind of talked a little bit kind of offline, but this is the first time having you on the podcast from Bullhorn. Thanks for joining us. I think Gabe how much blackmail money did you have to use, Gabe, to get him down here?
All of my life savings, and thank God I took it out of the S&P 500 to spend it on here before letting it just drop. So it turned out good for me.
I tell you that there's a truism in there. You always got to keep a little cash on hand so you can buy the dip. Come on, Gabe, you got to buy the dip.
Or pay Tony to get Arne on the show with me. It's either
exactly. Or. You used all your social capital. How's it going, Arne?
Exactly.
Doing good, and thanks for having me. So I was also thinking about some of the insights about the optimism that people had for the economy in 2025. But at the time of running the report, of course, we hadn't seen the dips in the last few days. So not sure if that optimism holds true.
So look, being here in the U.S., I can definitely tell you, I think there is quite a bit of optimism. And I think, look, the challenge is people have always, they're always told, look, we shouldn't talk politics, this kind of stuff. And I agree. I actually hate politics. But the point is, when you go through some kind of a big transition, sometimes there is a little bit of disruption. And we know that there's an attempt right now to reduce the size of government. So that means people are going to be displaced. So to me, it's kind of natural. I mean, when I was forecasting myself, I saw a natural dip in the first quarter as things were changing. And then, of course, we're going to be launching, out into something different. So that's kind of how I see it.
Growing pains is as natural as that comes, right? I mean, if you want to do something different than what's usually been happening, there's going to be some disruption, like you said. But, hopefully we do see the optimism long term. So hopefully we are going to see that curve. And a lot, especially in the staffing industry, especially in the US, we're seeing a lot of optimism coming to this year.
Yeah, well, we need it because, as you know, Arne and Bullhorn, you guys have a pretty good handle on, new customers. You can see, what the pipeline looks like. You see, from your grid report, what, by the way, beautiful report. If y'all have, obviously we're going to talk about that. So, but for the listeners, if you've not checked out the grid report, it's fantastic. And it's really the subject. What we want to talk about today a little bit is some of the findings from that. Arne, do you want to just give us kind of a high level, just who was surveyed? How did you go about putting together the information for the grid report?
So this is the 15th grid report that we are putting out. So it's the long-standing tradition. There's in fact 2 reports. There's one where we survey the candidates. So the latest one for that was the 2024 report. 2025 will come out later this year. And then we have another one where we survey the agencies and we ask all kinds of questions about what they are experiencing in the industry, what their outlook is, what they're struggling with, what they're excited about. And this is a global report. So we survey people in all regions that we're active in, from North America to UK, Europe, APAC. So yeah, global.
So you're talking to you're talking to your own customers.
That's right.
Okay, good. So this is not anecdotal. I mean, this is factual information.
Yeah, indeed.
From existing customers. Well, now we are users, so we're on the Bullhorn platform, so we were given access to that. So I thought that was a very important report. So Gabe, I think one of the focuses that we saw in the grid report was specifically, how companies are beginning to adopt, kind of what percentage really are adopting those advancements, technology, AI, digital transformation. You guys are really at the forefront of that, trying to help companies sell better. For people who didn't maybe check out our first podcast, shame on you if you didn't. You really should have. Gabe was amazing. Give everyone the 30,000-foot view again of the kind of front end solution that you guys are offering at Woo.
Yeah, even without going into specifically what we're doing, I mean, just in the industry as a whole, everyone's trying to use their existing network better. They realize that they could keep it alive using platforms like Bullhorn, using search platforms, automation platforms. The problem is that it all relies on the data that's inside there. And people that are storing thousands of records, it's impossible to keep track of all of these candidates that are moving, hiring managers that are actively hiring at new companies with thousands. We can't keep track of them all. And that's what we do here at Woo. We actually are sitting in the background of your ATS or your CRM and keeping all of the records up to date to tell you exactly in a timely manner, hey, this candidate got promoted, moved to a new job, moved to a new location. This hiring manager is actively hiring these roles at a new company. We should reach out to win that new business. So essentially, we're the infrastructure. We're the data engine to then empower all of your AI and automation that you want to use on your existing network.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I was just thinking through some of the challenges that staffing companies have. I think just salespeople have, trying to track down those new leads. And just most of the time, some of your best leads are coming from referrals. And so to me, the fact that you've kind of just tied into that referral network, making it, actionable and like real time, up to date, and it just becomes part of your dashboard, part of your day, is following up on a routine basis in a timely manner. Hey, these candidates have just changed jobs. If you've already had a great relationship with them, this is the best time to call them now because they left. Maybe they can refer people to you because there's a reason why they left. And maybe they're in a hiring position now. So I think it's super clever. It's kind of one of those to me, it's like common sense, like good AI common sense to have.
For sure. And I think that in a macro situation where you have tariffs in the US and a lot of uncertainty, and for the time being, and you have national insurance in the UK, which they have a whole reform going on there, and there's a lot of uncertainty about the hiring patterns that are going to come out of it, and you have go-to-market tools that are being banned from LinkedIn. It's a time where everyone is a little bit confused, but at the same time, everyone needs to win new business. Everyone needs to get new openings, and everyone needs to fill them with candidates. And a lot of people are saying, you know what, let me go back to my bread and butter. Let me go back to my existing network.
Yeah, people already kind of know you. It's kind of that soft, warm.
Exactly.
There are some weird people out there that like cold calling, but let's be honest, most people are kind of like, let me go with the warm, the warm area. All right, Arn, go ahead and start and kind of kick us off with this grid report. I know you guys have a few things prepared that y'all want to talk about. I'd love to kind of hear, what the
Yeah.
takeaways were from that.
So I think one of the takeaways is that 2024 was a tough year for staffing in general. And when we spoke to customers, like the best way that I could summarize it, and some people say that, is that you're expected to do more with less. Like clients are, it's harder to get the margins that you used to have. Candidates have higher expectations. There's more offers being turned down. They want frequent communication. They want to go from the application to being placed in a quick, timely manner. So that's something that companies felt and that they were struggling with. I think what I found very interesting on the margins piece and on the economy piece is that many companies tried to overcome that by diversifying their business lines and finding other ways where they could pursue higher margins. So we've seen many of our clients who, instead of just placing somebody, trying to move a little bit more into delivering entire projects where they would take on more responsibility, but where they could command higher margins. So we've seen agencies, like 70% of the people, they were saying that they were focusing on their market share, protecting that, building that out. And then, of course, what we will talk about a lot is like using technology to increase the productivity of your recruiters. Like if you have higher expectations on all ends, then yeah, bridging that gap is something where the technology becomes a necessity. So I think that was an interesting takeaway from how people felt about the economy in 2024. And then looking ahead, people looking at 2025, they were optimistic. Like on our numbers show that 38% expected to grow more than 10% in 2025, 31% expected to grow up to 10%. And of course, some of that will be because many companies suffered in 2024. So maybe growing will be reclaiming some of the revenue that they've lost. But overall, people had a positive outlook, which I think is good, and hopefully that'll become true.
Sure hope so. We could use some growth in this upcoming year.
Indeed. Yeah, and I think, of course, I mean, we have to talk about AI. AI is all the rave. Personally, I found 2024 much more interesting, whereas in the beginning of 2023, everyone was still searching for the use cases. There was lots of hype about AI, but I think as an industry, not everybody figured out what to do with it, and the hype, the expectations were not really delivered on. But nowadays, I think, yeah, everybody figured out how AI can be leveraged, and we also got lots of data points on like where where companies see the biggest benefit, what kind of processes they want to automate with AI, and also maybe passing over to Gabe, the biggest obstacles that they're seeing and how they can make that happen.
For sure. And I think that going into taking both the 2024 and the 2025 grid report, so if we're talking about candidates and agencies, it was very clear to see what the use cases are. Even taking away AI, taking away every terminology, what do people want? You see that 81% of clients are saying, of the candidates are saying, I don't care what's being used, what AI, schmai is being used, as long as it makes the process faster. Candidates are saying, I want to be placed faster, right? And I want to be contacted frequently, because 79% of agencies said that I keep doing this. Candidates are saying that if they're contacted once a week, they're more likely to work with that agency again. Two very clear stats to say, I want to be working fast as a candidate, and I want frequent contact. That's on the candidate side. On the agency side, we saw in 2025 that people were saying that they see the most value in use cases like search and match, saying, I want to get a job, I want to get it fast, I want to understand who in my network is relevant for that role as soon as possible without all the manual work, and then I want to be able to deliver them right away to the client. So we see the use cases, and then we see the barrier, as you said. So if we said speed and efficiency is the want, the how, or what's the barrier to the how, is the data. And what the grid report found in 2025 is that 36% of the agencies, which was the biggest out of the portion, say that the one thing that's being the biggest barrier to them to taking on AI automation and fully deploying it is data.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's what I would imagine is the data. Because if you, I mean, the data unfortunately has been kind of this like old legacy system of just, you're just collecting, collecting, collecting. It's stagnant. And obviously you guys are trying to make everything relevant in real time, Gabe. So you kind of have to go in and standardize it, normalize it. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I just had a podcast about that, you know, with the way, you know, with the advances literally in the AI assistance, you can do a lot of, you can do some cleanup internally on your own. And if you're not comfortable with creating your a new system of API or JSONs to kind of clean everything up, you can just outsource it. Just have someone come in and clean it up. Do you guys do that at all, Gabe? Or do you guys have any like partnerships that help with the data? I know
So
obviously Bullhorn does. I mean, you've got a full, you know, marketplace of people, I'm sure.
yeah, we're going in. Our platform itself is going in and taking all of the records one by one, looking at
Okay, so you
millions
do
of
that.
openly
That's
available
part of the
data points.
service.
Yeah, part of the
Okay.
service.
Got it. Got it.
So it works well that they said that the biggest problem was data, but it's true because you want to ask yourself as an agency when you're using an ATS two simple questions. Two simple questions. Question number one, let's say, just for an example, let's say I'm a software agency in LA. I'm saying, who are all the senior software engineers that are working right now in the title senior software engineer that have 2 years of experience in C#, that worked at NVIDIA in 2015, that today work at Apple? Let's just say that's a simple question you want to ask your database. Can you do that based off of the data that you have right now? Is it clean enough that you're able to run those searches? It's a very simple question. It's the same thing that you could run on a job board on a LinkedIn. Can I run it in my internal system out of the people I've already acquired? And if the answer for that is no, then the next step should be, how do I get this data to be clean enough and searchable enough so that I can then take on those tools and take on that AI and on that AI automation so that it would then work well off the data that is being fed. The second question is more of a biz dev one, right? Who are the people that I've worked with that are actively hiring? Who are these people that are also leads? They're in my database. I've already acquired them in some shape or form and had some relationship. Where are they right now? Are they actively hiring? What industries are they in? Simple questions that we might not be able to answer without good data.
I think data is one of the key use cases where there's going to be so much benefit from all kinds of AI technology. Obviously, Woo allows you to keep track of candidates' career so that all of the outreach, and I think, Tony, you hit the nail on the head by saying relevant, it's becoming more easy to write a personalized message with the help of AI. And if that only leads to more spam because it's not relevant, if the job is not relevant because your data is outdated, yeah, that's not going to help. That's just going to make it even harder to source people. And I think apart from Woo really keeping track of candidates, there's also what Bullhorn is doing with data enrichment, where you can really use the LLMs to say, okay, go into the CV and find me this data piece. Maybe you have like 100 candidates missing a job title, missing certain skills. And if you have the data in an unstructured way, I think that's something that, is going to generate a lot of value, just consistently making sure that everything is in the right place. And also, I think transcription is something that it's both boring and exciting because, well,
I love that. I mean, I'm like, this is me typing.
Indeed.
Maybe I'll throw a third one in. I mean,
you're feeling crazy.
Yeah, if I'm really on, you know, hopped up on Monster or Red Bull. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love the transcription services, and a lot of the VoIP systems now that companies are using are building a lot of that kind of technology in, so you can just have the conversation. AI joins, grabs it, and then I imagine there's a way that it's configured, like again through API.
Yeah, indeed. It's such a, I say it's boring and exciting at the same time because it's about adding a node into the system, something as an ex-recruiter that I never forgot to do. All my notes were in there.
You never forgot ever, right? Ever.
No. Indeed. Never happened. My colleagues neither. Everybody was consistently logging their notes.
And you did it all the time. You always went home at night and it was all done, clean notebook, nothing left over, always.
But it's one of those things, if you can make sure that that consistently happens. You never miss a note. That's just such a huge gain, and that will improve your data quality so much. And it started with the plain transcriptions, of course, the summaries followed. And I think where this space is going is you see a lot of analytics being built into it. We will really say, okay, who's having the best conversations? Who is interviewing these candidates and then getting them placed, or pitching a job to these candidates and then getting them to an interview? What objections were raised? So those insights are very interesting. And on the other hand, also where it went from just a summary, now we're seeing all of these players working on getting the specific data points into the right place. So if the candidate mentioned, hey, these are my salary expectations, well, then let's populate that in the right field. So I think this technology is particularly exciting, just to make sure that everybody has better data.
Yeah, I think that's super exciting. And if we're taking a full use case, especially with such an incredible marketplace and internal platform like Bullhorn, you see that, for example, search and match coming out, right? AI infused everywhere. So in the search and match area, to be able to say, I'm looking for a job right now, run a search and match on my existing network, make sure that it's the right people popping up because the data is good with Woo, using Ringover, for example, to then make the call, get it all the notes inputted, have Bullhorn's enrichment then understand those notes, put the relevant fields, added what's relevant from that call. It's very seamless, and it's really making a smaller amount of people in an agency a lot more effective. Talking about margins, like we said before, your margins can be a lot greater without that kind of legacy growth of headcount, but actually with using the right tech and using it right.
Arne, I have a question for you because what I'm hearing, this seems to be a technology that benefits, and I'm sure y'all will correct me on this, but this seems to kind of more trend toward like the direct hire side, where there's a little more personalization rather than we're just staffing for the warehouse. Now, obviously this can work in the same way, but in the report, in the grid report, did you find that this was direct hire recruiting W-2s?
We lost you for a second. If you could repeat the last 5 to 10 seconds.
Both frozen. I'll have to edit this out. Hold on. Let me see where we're at here. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I had some internet issues yesterday. Sorry about that.
No worries. You're saying that in the grid report about direct hire.
Well, I was just curious because the conversation that I was just hearing, you're providing so much more intel and a richness of data. And you find, my own personal experience, I have found that comes out in more of your direct hire conversations. It's not that you're not having those on staffing, but the staffing questions can be a little more simplistic. If you're, for example, for the companies who, you're hiring laborers or, forklift drivers, versus, an accountant, a CFO, whatever, what have you. So in the grid report, did you find this information was skewing more staffing or direct hire?
So our client base includes both, of course, and I think everybody will do some sort of staffing, like even if they do direct hire or permanent placements. We don't have it like broken down into specific verticals, but yes, of course, what you're saying makes perfect sense, right? If you're doing more short-term and high-volume approaches, then the matching may be more straightforward. So, but on the other hand, there's other issues like, for example, the volume there. I think when you look at really the high volume, I feel the screening agents are particularly exciting, where everything has to go really fast, and that's true for when you have crazy high volume or you have candidates who don't have the availability. Like the typical example are like in healthcare, maybe nurses have all kinds of particular shifts and then they have a break at 11 p.m. So obviously they can't call a recruiter. If they can then do a screening with an agent who is available whenever, that also solves some use cases. So I think, well, we have the vision and we have the strategy of infusing AI through the entire workflow. But we're also not saying like you should automate everything. It's important that the platform allows the flexibility to kind of pinpoint these are the places where our recruiters spend lots of time on. How can we automate? How can we facilitate some of those things? So yeah, I
So
think
how do
that
you
that
decide
makes
that, Arne? I mean, how do you look at your process and figure out this is a bottleneck and we probably should use some AI?
I mean, obviously, each agency is unique, right? But everybody, there's going to be some commonalities, right? We have like a breakdown where I would say like the average staffing agency will have, or the average recruiter at a staffing agency will spend some time on selling, matching, screening, and submitting candidates. And I think the submitting piece, to your earlier point, if you're doing like high volume work, you're not going to send a very detailed CV over to the hiring manager. There's going to be a different workflow. But maybe you need to do the screening is going to be super important. So I think I would really point at the individual agency where you see where your recruiters spend their time on. There's going to be lots of technologies, like I feel the transcription, no matter whether you're interviewing a
Yeah.
CEO or a warehouse worker, getting the data in your system is going to be valuable no matter what. But yeah, like while each agency is unique, like we have the entire spectrum covered, and yeah, everybody's going to work on some of those tasks.
Yeah, there's not one area. What do you think, Gabe?
I mean, I think that the proof is in the pudding, right? And I think that the grid report also mentioned that. I think that it's about 17 hours per recruiter per week that can be saved with AI and automation, right, Arne?
Yeah, so that's where we ask our customers where they predict AI can save them time. And if you add all of those things up, then it's 17 hours per week, which is massive. The biggest area there as well is matching. So that is really something where lots of agencies spend loads of time on, where they estimate they could save up to 4.5 hours. And if I think of my prior days as a recruiter, yeah, that was definitely one of the areas where I would spend lots of time on. And I think when I was working as a recruiter, I was sort of the technical person. I like to figure out each button and build the most advanced Boolean search and really get the most out of those tools. If you enter the workforce as a recruiter today, that's not the kind of skill set that you're going to want to develop. You're just going to have the AI do the matches so that you can focus on other tasks like engaging with the candidate. So I think that's a clear trend.
Yeah, there's so many ways to search in a more simplistic English way than Boolean searches nowadays. Search and match is a great example, right? We don't need to be spending that much time. And what's funny is that we see that on one hand, 17%, 17 hours can be spent elsewhere, right? That could be saved. Yet at the same time, I think that I said that about 18% of agencies, only 18%, feel that they're actually far along their journey of adopting AI and automation. So the question is, and I think every agency should be asking themselves, where are my inefficiencies? Where am I spending a lot of time? And where can I say this is really critical for human connection and I don't want to automate it? And where can this be automated? Because searching and matching can be done behind a screen. It could be a person behind a screen and there's no human interaction. Ideally, that can be done for us. That can be automated for us. And with proper tools like Bullhorn Auto Match, Search and Match, feeding off of the data that Woo's keeping up to date, that makes it a lot more efficient. And in that case, we wouldn't need to be going through thousands of records. And by the way, when we save more time, obviously then our service can then be a lot more efficient. Again, talking about the margins, but it's also talking about agencies falling behind, because if you're not going to adopt this and you're going to start falling behind and falling behind and falling behind and still going over that 17 hours that turns into 20 hours, that turns into 23 hours a week, then you're going to only be able to hike, you're going to have to hike your prices, and then you can't be competitive. So we really see that there's a need, yet people aren't there yet. Only 18% of people feel that they're actually far along that journey.
And a caveat there is, of course, that on the one hand, the goalposts are shifting because technology has advanced so quickly that the question is there also it's are you it's more on a personal level where they consider whether they're using advanced technology and how far they are along in their digital transformation journey. It's not going to be the same answer if you were in if you are an agency in 2022 or in 2024. And on the other hand, of course, it was a tough year. Many companies were more conscious about what they were spending their money on. The other thing, the flip side of that coin, is also when we looked at which agencies showed revenue growth in 2024. Well, those were the ones who were automating and engaging with AI tools. So there were some really interesting numbers proving that the ones who did it got the benefit.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that you had said earlier there. You mentioned the time saving that you receive, having some kind of automation or search and match, but that the skill set was changing for the recruiter. And I will say that really resonated with me because I really do remember feeling like I had to put together the absolute perfect Boolean string. And I was always worried that I wasn't going to catch the right person. So I would have to run a search multiple times with multiple different variations, like of title or just something like VP or vice president or SVP, or just, keep mixing it up and then keep taking all that data and dumping it into one bucket that I was sure that it would weed out the duplicates. So by doing this search over and over and over and over, I would say, okay, this is my definitive list of everybody that does this. So I do feel like that was kind of like a hard skill that you had to learn how to go through that. And if that's kind of going away, then what that's really asking of the recruiter is to increase your soft skills.
Yep.
To do a better job of being on the phone and making those personal relationships, because that's what, to me, all of this should be providing us, is a quicker, faster way to engage in a more genuine, authentic conversation. And if you've got the transcription, right, you got your data clean, and you've got Woo telling you these are your top 10 targets that you should be talking to, like, immediately. Well, you've just taken 2 hours of research out of your morning. You can just sit down, have your coffee, get ready to go, and jump into your day and just start producing. And there you go. Higher, your ROI is going to go up. Commissions are going to go up. Happy recruiters, less turnover. I mean, literally, this is the oil for the whole machine to keep it healthy, in my opinion.
For sure.
We always.
Yeah. I mean, we always say that it's always about bringing it back to what it's always been about, which is the relationship building, and less about the manual tasks. And that's, you said it perfectly. It's all about making it about relationship building. And yeah, I honestly just couldn't have said it better.
Well,
and
there
I
you
think
go.
that
We're done.
yeah,
No,
we're done. But on the revenue topic, because what you mentioned, Arne, with the people that are growing, even on a down year like last year, are the ones that are using AI and automation. And I think the stats were that the ones that had a revenue growth, or the winners, were 41% more likely to be using AI and automation. And the other one, that 96% of the agencies, the recruitment firms that grew in 2024, use some type of AI. I think we see that. We're seeing it very, very tangibly, that the ones that are winning are the ones that are using AI and automation. And it's hard. There's a lot of confusion out there. What should I be using? And those are great questions to ask. And that's why, ideally, if you use an ATS, that's why you have an account manager. If you're able to look at jobTopia, right, and get real-time insights from all of the different providers out there and the trends out there, then that's what you should be focusing on, so that you won't be focusing on building the perfect Boolean search, but you'll be able to write the perfect prompt to then give you all of the relevant, up-to-date candidates, right?
I think that seems to be the trend. And I was just saying to someone earlier, I think your business owners and even people who are frontline users of the system, you've got these kind of two competing fears you have to deal with. One, if your firm is not using AI, or if you yourself are just using an AI, but the company itself is not, you have this fear that you're falling behind. And you can feel it. If honestly, if you use AI and no one else is, you kind of feel like they're so 2000. It's like, where are you? You've got to catch up. Like, I feel that way, honestly, in some ways, about information sources. This is a bit of a tangent, but like I get all my news now from Twitter, X. It's just because it is a gateway now to the world. Everything is there. And when someone is not using the most current up to date information, I kind of feel like you're just like, you're way behind. I knew this, I knew that 8 hours ago or 12 hours ago. And so you have these competing fears of you're falling behind, but then also the fear of change. So I don't know how much you guys have to deal with that, Gabe and Arne. I don't know how much that comes up, with customers. Like, what if we
Totally.
screw this implementation up? Like, where am I going to lose my data? I mean, what can you say? What are
Yeah.
sentiments around this?
I think it's always good. We speak about this every day and we understand exactly what's out there. And everybody's going to be on the spectrum from being really hesitant or skeptical about AI to the agencies who just try everything and see what works. Um, my opinion is on the one hand, there are some early wins. Like, I think it's very, if you have the transcriptions tool that I mentioned, like, it's hard for people to show a lot of resistance against that because it seems such a mundane task. Logging your notes, it's a process that you're doing anyway. So there are lots of technologies which should not really impact your workforce, who will save people time. And I would definitely encourage everybody, if they are hesitant about AI in general, to focus on those things. I would also say, yes, don't fall behind and experiment with AI, with the more advanced technology. But then again, yeah, look, of course, at your personal business. What makes sense in your scenario? Where are you spending time on? And change management is also a big factor because, of course, when I was a recruiter, as we discussed, I was successful because I was highly technical. And yeah, if you have to give that up, if you have to switch to being more focused on your soft skills, it will be hard for some people. And yeah, I've had lots of great conversations with clients who are really thoughtful about that. I'm not the change management expert, but really taking the team along the journey. I think giving them the benefit of saving time on tasks. Nobody likes formatting CVs. Nobody likes logging notes. So I think those are things where you won't face resistance. Communicating a lot, and yeah, having a clear plan to show them the benefits, and also about incentives, right? If your team realizes that they can become so much more productive, and that will help them get more commissions, more placements, yeah, that's kind of the message that I think you
That's the
should be
carrot
able to
that's
get
kind of
across.
out there. It's like, this is where we're headed. This is going to be good for you. But I like that. I mean, I think that's a very practical way, and I like that you very practical. Is that, look? No one wants to do transcription or note taking. So, you know, if you can introduce some basic things that will make their day better, maybe that's the door that you enter in. Maybe that's um, the Trojan horse, that you kind of ride in with, and then boom, you open up all these other more fantastic, advances.
Yeah, and I mean, totally. Like you said, there are some tasks that no one wants to do, right? Mundane tasks, admin work, transcriptions, data entry, right? All this stuff no one wants to do. The question is, it is not easy to do a change in your general workflow, right? So incentivization, like you mentioned at the end there, is something that's very interesting because on one hand, we know maybe as, let's say, the higher level that yes, this is going to be beneficial for you. And maybe the C suite understands that this is going to be more beneficial for their business. But the person that's doing the task now, especially in staffing, when it's a game of speed, might say, oh, I'm used to doing it a certain way. It'll be faster for me. So sometimes we actually have to make artificial incentivization. And what I mean by that, so for example, using Bullhorn better and making more placements from your database as opposed to external sources. If you explain over here in the comfort of my booth, right? Of course, it makes more sense to both cost wise to make a placement for my existing records and also fast wise, speed wise, because this is my existing network. We have a relationship. They're more likely to engage with me. But for the consultant that's on the computer that needs to make the placement now, he might not do it from him or herself. So incentivization actually is saying, for example, hey, we want to spark this change. We'll give you, instead of your general bonus, which is 10%, we'll give you 15% if you make it from your existing records and without using external sources, then that will get that change to be sparked initially. And then even when you take off that incentivization, they'll have already understood the value. So I would say that one thing is going slowly, slowly. Two is by adding incentivization. And the third thing is by not taking too big of risks. And what I mean by that, and I come from the data world, if I were to tell you, like you were mentioning, Tony, oh yeah, I'm going to change all of your data, but I can't roll it back and it might have changed forever, and then you took a risk on me and good luck and we'll part ways, then you would say, okay, that's not
That's
such a
not
good
what I signed
risk
up
assessment.
for.
That's not what I signed up for. So of course you need to make sure with your vendors, and that's where an advantage of something like, let's say, our tool, that we are going and updating the data, but we can roll back anything that you would want and then put it in a different field or put it in that field and take it back to what it was. You need to make sure that the risk is as minimal as possible when using these vendors, so that even if you don't end up adopting it, you'll be able to keep your prior systems in place.
I can't believe we've already blown through about 45 minutes on this topic. Like
Felt like 10.
I know. I mean, I feel like we could just keep going. Is there any, give us some final takeaways, Arne? You're at the mothership. What is it is there another piece there that we're missing? Another kind of parting shot here for us to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is not there for the purpose of AI, but if it can help you improve your talent experience and deliver human experience in a better way where possible, that's how we need to think about it. I think all of these technologies can be really fancy and really nice to look at, but the foundations are going to be so important. So the data, as we've probably talked about for half of the time, is absolutely critical, as well as a deeply integrated system where the tools can get the right data, put the data in the right place. And then as an agency, if you're looking at this, like, yeah, depending on where you land on the spectrum of being very open to AI or very skeptical about AI, focus either on the early wins, experiment with more advanced technologies, and see what makes sense for you. That's kind of how I would summarize it.
You can't get any better than that. What do you think, Mr. Wu?
I think I had a great time. That's what I think. It's been great chatting with you both. Honestly, it's always great.
you have got this content stuff dialed in. If you guys are not following Gabe, you really should. He puts together some of the best videos, short, sweet, and I'm telling you that you had that one you did where you walked outside. You work in a super high tech area there in Israel. I mean, it was just beautiful. The sun was shining. I thought, if every piece of content could look that good, wow, sales must just be rocking.
Well, you're invited always. I'll film you personally on that same porch.
I'm going to have to come out. I mean, this is going to be a long trip for jobTopia, but maybe we'll do it. Gentlemen, good to see you both. I'm so glad you guys could join us here today on jobTopia.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.